Hi everyone, you're listening to the Vialucci podcast, uncensored and completely unedited discussions about life and everything in it. We hope you enjoy the show.
No, I'm not letting you be too professional. What does it say on it? Butlins? It says Butlins, but I'm not letting you have it. This is my pen.
So have you been to Butlins?
No, I found this on a train. I was like, oh, that's a really handy, good pen. It's got like, listen to that clicking sound.
Butlins, so is that still around?
I assume so.
But it's almost a cliche, isn't it? Where you going, Butlins? What? Is that a
Yeah,
joke?
I went to Butlins as a kid. Very young. Is that rain?
You close that door there, David. We never had any sound in there ever. We leave the door open once and somebody's got a Hoover on.
Yeah, so to let people peek behind the curtains, we decided to have the door open, and because there's normally no noise here, and now there is noise. But anyway,
also the guy there,
yeah,
he must be about 25. I've never seen a 25-year-old with a Hoover. I don't know if that's
shame.
It's my problem or it's a problem with society. Just, I'm not making an opinion. It's just what I saw. Anyway. So Petra,
hello.
Thank you for coming in. So Petra's Greek for, do you know?
Rock.
Yeah. Or stone. Stone seems a bit. Rock.
Rock's a bit kind of
more emotional. Stone means dead inside.
Yeah.
Well,
there's an arrest.
My boyfriend would argue that there's that angle as well.
What does your fella do?
He's an entrepreneur himself, so he was in the events business, and of course, COVID gave good old...
Did you say the offence business?
Events.
Oh,
the offence business. I like it. He just went around with a placard, just insulting people and charging them money for it. That'd be amazing.
That's handy. What sort of events? Anything?
Yeah, really random out there events. Have you heard of zorbing? Where they get into a big giant inflatable ball and
you see the video
ram into each other.
Went off the side of the mountain.
Yes, I'm aware that was not his
that?
job
Oh my
for the
God.
record.
No. Where was it? I was going to say Ukraine. That just popped into me. It was like a.
I want to say it was Wales or something.
No, it was like a Russian or something. It was snowy.
You can get snow in Wales. You can get snow in Wales. I haven't seen it, so I can't.
I've only heard rumor of the story, so I wouldn't want.
Have you not seen the video?
No, I haven't seen the video.
Oh, you can watch it. I'm sure they're Russian or it's Eastern European.
I mean, it's awful.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
They just had no barrier, and the speed
went
just
down
picked up.
the hill, and like a mountain. If you think of skiing, it goes off and it bounces and it bounces and then it bounces sideways, and the guy goes, whatever he swears, and it bounces and they're chasing it, but it's gone, and then it just goes boom
off the mountain.
You shouldn't do it on him.
What an odd way to die. Like, you get to heaven and people are like, what happened to you? You're like, oh, I was rescuing a baby from a burning building. What about you? I was zorbed off a mountain.
Well, I have a problem with people. It annoyed me when somebody I like does something wrong, because I try to keep my circle.
I think that's reasonable.
Sort of clean of like stupid people. And then they go, I'm going to do I'm going to jump out of a plane. And you go, I know it's for charity. I get it. But there's you land and you've got some money for charity, and death. And death's the better option, because I want to...
But it's not and death, it's or death.
Yeah, it's an or.
You might land and make the money, or you could die.
I'd do it if they said, this will end poverty. Okay, I'll take the risk. I might have to in my life. Because in those last moments... Yeah, in those last moments, you go, they died and you've got nothing to... They just throw themselves out of a plane. Tell that to like an alien. Don't get involved with aliens again. But just, what did you do? Oh, no,
it would be a strange one. Have you ever done anything crazy like that? Or
I'm a little bit... It's hilarious because I'm very pro-risk when it comes to business and changing my life, but I'm a little bit risk-averse when it's for fun. Yeah. Like, I do it for progress, but when it's like for fun...
If it goes wrong, you go, what am I doing? In fact, who was I talking to? I hope it wasn't on the podcast. I was talking about a Netflix program. I think it was a Netflix thing. And they did a show where they went and spoke to... There's a famous bridge in America where people commit suicide on. And a lot of them do on various, but this is one which is very cold, fast water. And they did a program, I think it was Netflix, and they spoke to people that had survived from throwing themselves off. Yeah. And they were saying to them, like, they followed a story of why and how it got to there. And they say, what were you thinking as you went down? And basically all of them said, oh my God, I've made a mistake. Because I think that what the rationale was, you've got to remove the person and the personality and why they're there. The brain has got wrong chemicals in it. That's when you just get it down to that. It's the synapses have gone the wrong way. They've formed patterns. The biology is... So now you're not really thinking straight. So, but because the feelings are so strong and the chemicals are so strong, the depression and whatever, you can't just pull yourself out of it. You're gone. You've sort of hypnotized yourself. And no matter what people say, well, it isn't going to work. But in the moment of death, the body suddenly floods and overrides that. Wow. And you suddenly realise, you wake up because the chemicals are, you must live. and then it just floods the brain. And you go, oh, wow, I'm out of it. What am I doing? And then wallop. And you think, oh, God, that's horrendous, isn't it? Right, so on a cheerier note.
Way to kick off the show.
So it was only in research. I was trying to track where you're from, but you were from I know you're born in Holland.
Well done.
And then the threads went off all over the place, and I lost you.
And the accent will confuse you.
Yeah, I was very confused. The surname, I was like, maybe South African, which I suppose, obviously, there is a connection.
You'd make a good a spy, because they'd never really track you down. You go, where's it? I can't get the accent. I don't know where she was there, but she's there. But she's over there as well.
You have to have some good disguises, though.
The problem. So, born into a cult.
Do you want the summary?
Yeah, give us.
Do you want the short version?
Yeah.
Yeah, born into a cult. Well,
in Holland.
Born in Holland. When I was 2, moved to Brazil, and then moved to
With
India.
Both parents?
But so I'm in a blended family. Yeah. So my mom's white, my dad's black.
Yeah.
She met my dad in Brazil.
Yeah.
He's from the US.
And she's from Holland.
She's from Holland.
Okay, yeah.
And then we didn't kind of grow up in any of those places. We grew up in communes. We grew up in India and Russia.
Were they already in a cult?
Yeah, so they were already...
It's the children of God.
Yeah, so at the time, it was very much like a revolution, like the starting of something, right? And over time, it evolves into a cult. Nobody really goes, let's set up a cult,
So it must have been the 60s or 70s.
Yeah, 70s.
So it was all over the place. It was more normal to be in some sort of group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They were popping up everywhere, weren't they?
So what is, for the uninitiated, of which I include myself, what is the children of God?
Whew. Have you been Googling?
No, I mean, it is what it is. It starts off well-meaning with a few people. I'm assuming there's a leader.
Yeah, well, this is the thing about a cult, is that the leader becomes like the god or the person that you must follow.
Like a sort of
but they kind of believed in free love. They thought, let's leave the churches.
Okay.
So put together a whole bunch of, I guess, horny religious teenagers trying to save the world. And it was fine. Within that generation, you see those sorts of things pop up everywhere. But then our generation comes along. So now you've got kids. So now you need structure. You need rules, you need processes, and over time, I guess the belief system became darker and darker, to the point that if you don't believe in it or belong as part of the tribe, you get ostracized, kicked out of. And for us, it would have been the only kind of home or lifestyle culture we ever knew. So it was kind of as a teenager that you kind of go, "Is this normal?"
What made you question things? The first, was it just something in you? Just thought.
I mean, there was so many categorical things that had happened, but then the narrative was very much how to reinterpret them as okay, right? So like peers of mine would get punished, or they would get have a sign on their you said like we just went dark and now it's like we're going somewhere else. But they might be on what they would call silence restrictions. They wouldn't be allowed to talk because they'd spoken in the wrong way, right? Yeah. So stuff like that you were just like, but when it's your normal, you just kind of think, well, I don't want to be that person with the sign around my neck or being publicly shamed or punished. So for me, my survival strategy was really to just be below the surface, to be quite quiet, which is hilarious because I now speak for a living, but it would just be like, just be as invisible as possible in order to cope with that kind of environment.
And I'm assuming they keep sort of media away from you.
Yeah, we were pretty sheltered, and any media that was like as part of the narrative, like, look, the world is going to shit. You don't want to be part of that.
What was their belief? Was it Christianity, basically? Yeah,
so it was Christianity, and it was very Armageddonist. So we were like, the world was going to end. So it was very hilarious when the pandemic struck, and everyone was like, and we were all a bit like, like we've been preparing for this our whole lives.
What do you want to say?
I was just going to say, because there is, I forget which one, so I don't want to say the wrong one and offend people, but there is a religious group in inverted commas, more mainstream. There's a Christian group. I think, is it the Mormons or the Mormons? Who are the Dutch, the ones that live in Pennsylvania?
The Amish.
Are they the Amish where teenagers leave for a while? They go on like a walkabout.
That's the Mormons.
Oh, that's Mormons.
Mormons go off and
experience and then decide if they want to come back.
The Amish have horses and wagons.
Yeah, I thought it was them that. Oh, it's the Mormons.
Yeah,
okay.
The Mormons go around and evangelize or go to.
But I mean, there's one group where people are intentionally sort of, they would leave the cult or the commune
for a year. They go away.
Yeah, they go away to experience life in the outside world, and it's like
quite ballsy of them.
Yeah, and then do you want to come back? And some people don't obviously come back, but then that means if you don't come back,
you're shunned.
That's you out.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
But if you're back in, you're back in.
Yeah.
I just always think of that from Witness, because it's funny that they talk about the outside as being the English.
Yeah.
But obviously it would have been for that time.
With who's the chick in Harry Potter? Harry Potter and Minnie.
I need more information. There's a lot of people.
Whatever her name is.
Emma Watson?
No, the character. Hermione.
Hermione.
What's her name?
Emma Watson.
Yeah, she was in a film where she was part of a cult. Did you see it?
Oh, yeah.
And oh God, there's like a few women. She falls in love with a guy.
Oh, okay.
And then they're trying to escape.
Because they're not allowed to be.
Yeah, and like she gets caught because she's supposed to be asleep, and she runs out. She sees them sort of beating the nurse.
Oh my God.
Because the men have to beat the evil out of the woman. They have to sit in the stall.
It's always. I mean, was the Children of God run by a man by any chance?
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's always, but run by a woman. Have you ever heard of one?
I'm sure there are, but it would be very much in the minority. It becomes very patriarchal, especially now. It's like a free love vibe. It's like,
that's always the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always everyone's got to have sex with the cult leader.
And then they didn't believe in abortion, not to go down that journey, but it just meant that kids popped up everywhere, and who was left to look after them? It was the women, of course.
Oh,
so
okay, wow.
yeah.
So when will your memories go back to? What age can you remember sort of things?
There's patchy memories. I mean, like arguably, when you've experienced trauma or we move so often. Like I remember one night, like the authorities were coming to raid one of the communes in case the kids were being abused, and it was like the middle of the night that my parents were like, grab your things, we're leaving, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we'd suddenly be in a different country, in a different place.
Where were you mainly?
I was across Europe, but never in a place for more than 3 years.
That's what I mean.
Max.
Why were you moving around so much?
Well, there were communes in different places, and part of their mission was to evangelize the world, right, with their belief system, as many of them do.
Where were they biggest?
Well, they started in the U.S.
Yeah.
But then they had really big places in Japan, in different parts of Europe, So there were Thailand, there were places, and then Africa, like it started to spread. I mean, there were over 10,000 people kind of globally.
And when you were in your teenage years, you started to stink?
Oh, we used to have contraband music that we'd kind of listen to. It's like when Whitney Houston first came out.
How would you even get that?
Yeah.
Well, so by then some people would have left, or we had our ways. Oh, okay. Come on, we had our ways.
There's a black market.
There's a little black
cassettes.
Market. Yeah. And it was such tame music now that I look back on it. But it was just like listening on headphones and like passing out, here's an earphone, to listen to contraband music.
Right. So you weren't questioning everything, but you were just experiencing other things.
Which is just like normal teenagers. You end up going, what else is out there? What's cool? And, sometimes the bad kid would be the cool kid. And sometimes they'd be the one that would be kicked out and punished.
And are they still going now? I mean, outside of a few people.
So it's very much different than it used to be.
Yeah.
But there's like my parents' generation who are still like, they don't have a retirement plan. Like that's the only life they ever knew. But it's more kind of, obviously the founder died. The son of the founder killed someone and took his own life.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The woman is now leading it.
Oh.
But that's because, and her sidekick, husband man. So there's still, there's still a cohort.
And where are they based? In the States?
No, they're all like all
I mean, the man and the woman.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
They've always been like off grid.
Oh, right.
So you can't ever find the people.
And how are they earning their money if not through donations?
Through donations.
Selling jam or something?
Through us all hustling wherever we were, and then them taking a tithe or a percentage of everything everyone made globally.
So that's what I mean. So what are they out doing? It's not. It'd be selling.
Yeah. Cakes. So they had their own products. So their own at the time it was like videos and things to help you. And then it was donations because many people were doing projects to help the poor or do things, which was the beautiful cover for maybe what was going on underneath.
I listened to a program that a guy left a Mormon young guy, and he said it's horrendous. It's not as nicey nice as you think it is. And
I don't think it's nicey nice.
No, but I mean, do you know the image of like them not being that bad? And he goes, no, there's serious abuse going on in this thing, and it's like messed him up. And he was saying that like when he goes to knock on doors, you'd think it would be this thing of have you believe in God and all that, and they said, but no, they know people don't think to that. So he'll open the door and he'll go like, God, Bob, and they go no, and then he'll just start and he'll say, but don't you want to know what we think about dinosaurs and aliens and things like that? And they go, I thought, you jammy sods, like that would get me.
Let me shit. Yeah, this bit of the Bible is about dinosaurs.
And he just opened the door to the devil. Yeah, and he got 1 foot steps in. That's it.
Probably there are parts in the early Bible, in the Old Testament. There is things about monsters and dragons and stuff like that. They could probably blag that.
Well, they've all had to change their stories. The evidence is too embarrassing now. They have.
It's a little bit with things like but you just all they have to do is just say, "Oh, the devil put it there to trick you," and
yeah, it's a test.
Or all the times that the world was going to end and then it didn't was like, God has given mercy and has spared you this one time. Thank him. And it was like this whole narrative for why that prediction was wrong.
Yeah. But it's the same with Trump, isn't it? That I think that's stopped now, but it went on for the best part of a year. Like he's actually secretly, this was all part of him losing the election, was all part of a plot to expose all the traitors. Yeah. And he's going to retake power on this date. And then that date would pass and nothing happened. And then this date would pass and nothing
variable occurred.
Yeah, exactly. And then because it's also now, for some bizarre reason, JFK Jr. is coming back. And so there's people camping outside an airport. I can't remember which one it is. And they've just been there. I mean, obviously the numbers are dwindling and dwindling as people come to their senses.
Becoming more and more extreme.
Yeah. The ones that are left behind, I guess. Because you have to, I suppose part of it is also, otherwise you have to admit and be like, oops, back to the wrong horse. Yeah,
that's a big jump.
So then it's easier, isn't it, to just say, no, everyone else is wrong.
You also start believing your own bullshit.
Yeah,
People are also going like, they believe that. And then it's the believing their own
like self-preservation. Your body's saying, look, don't jump to nothing. Stay with just shut your brain and just stay here where it's a bit safer. So what? I'm not being funny, but what you weren't like in bathrobes or anything, that sort of thing.
No,
you weren't ringing bells or anything.
No, we weren't going onto rooftops to like wait for the second coming.
And could you have a job, even though you're given the money? Could you go and get a job in a shop?
So I didn't go to school my whole childhood.
High five.
So I know. Well, now I've realized that the school system sucks. But at the time, I was like, education, man. Yeah. So we didn't go to school. People didn't have traditional jobs, so they were it was like roles within the commune, and then certain people would go out for funding or to sell things or whatever. We would like sing and put on shows as kids. We'd have to perform and get donations that way. So like a whole host of things. So sheltered in that sense. And then every time, like we were basically, our generation was raised to be the elite generation that was going to save the world. Right. And now I'm like, oh, where are we going with this? But like, think of the pressure, like that kid that's talking about over time, what that trauma, how it impacted him. That just baseline pressure of like, this is your path. Like nobody asked us, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like that was not a question that ever happened. Yeah. The assumption was just that this is your direction. This is where you're going.
It's very sort of, I mean, it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but it's very regressive in that kind of thing of like, people used to have children so that they would have someone to take over in their smithy or their, in the stables or whatever, and then also look after them when they got old and make sure they got a decent burial. And that was it. And you had no choice. And on and on and on for 1,000 years and stuff. But this is what did you say, the 1970s?
70s, 80s, yeah.
So strange.
I mean, the cult thing didn't even really exist, the word. It was just a group of everyone. Everything was a group. It was a time of group. And racial and things, some political.
People were trying to break out of normal society. Love, That's how it started.
Yeah.
Hippies,
so it just blurs into all that, doesn't it?
Yes.
So talking of love, you sort of, the sort of thing that got you out was that you fell in love with somebody.
Yeah.
What age were you?
22.
So this isn't internet dating.
Oh God!
Where did you meet? Was he part of it?
No. Okay. At his best mate's work Christmas party.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine had done some work in that same company, so we were both like the plus ones of our friends. And so we met. I mean, we met partying. I mean, like, do we want to go into addiction issues and alcohol consumption? Like for me, that was my like survival of kind of numbing out.
But you couldn't drink at the time.
Yeah, I could.
Oh, you could?
Yeah, we could drink. And so if we think, there were different phases of the cult. And then when I was 13, the founder died and the woman took over. And then became a little bit more liberal.
Right, okay.
Probably because she couldn't control everything. So she was like, God now wants you to go to school if you want to and do this, that, and the other. Oh. None of which I did. So I was kind of, interestingly, trusted as a bit of a leader within the community. So I actually played the game and, and when you have trust, then you have freedom. Because then they're like, that person is very dedicated. Yeah. They can do whatever they want. And so I sort of led a double life. So on the one hand, I was like, people listen to me, respect. And the other hand, alcohol, drugs, hedonism, dating people outside, which you weren't supposed to do. And so, yes, I met my...
Do you think what saved you was the fact that he died and it took the edge off a little bit of the extremity, of the extreme nature of the... or not?
I mean, it got weirder.
Oh, okay.
There was like, sometimes there's an illusion of liberty, you know, because it's like, here, have this thing. However, believe this more radical, crazy thing, or you'll be kind of cut off.
Just a different type of weirdness.
It was different.
What did you think growing up with the leader? Were you thinking he is the leader? Were you thinking, I don't know about this fella?
Well, he was kind of like, I never met him.
Oh, wow.
I ended up meeting the woman's kind of new husband. And, you know, when I lived in Russia when I was 17, another story. But he was sort of in we had comic books with his face, almost like we were meant to call him grandpa, like he was our grandpa, but we'd never met him. So he was like this character in our lives from birth, right? But, you know, I didn't realize, I've only recently found out through reading some books that he got actually kicked out of the church for sexual misconduct.
There we go.
And I'm like, the fuck? Am I allowed to swear because I keep doing it? I was like, what? Because I just kind of thought at the beginning, he was sort of radical, a little bit edgy. And yeah, we should get out of the churches that are just buildings made of money and go do things if that's what your belief system is. So that was that little nugget of truth.
It's sort of, it's almost disappointing how obvious it is that the guy running the cult was also a sexual demon and got kicked out. It's always the way,
about
isn't
being
it?
At the time, we're looking back to when we know about all this stuff now. You know, we're a bit more worldly, but you go back, you go, well, you didn't know it was a thing, like cults weren't. Now we can look back.
You can't just Google someone and dox them and find out everything there is to know about them.
When he died, was there any sadness for you? Was he too distant?
Yeah, it was confusing. It's confusing. Like the whole commune was in some kind of mourning and was this whole letters came out just to itemize what was going to happen next. And so there was this real kind of shift. And it was the first time that my parents and us 5 siblings ended up living on our own in our entire lives. And so imagine what that does to a relationship and the family unit, which has never been a family unit. It's been like, it's everyone's in the same family, right? So that was a huge transition for us. And I hadn't really, if you're raised to like numb your feelings and not feel anything and just go into group think, you're just trying to survive and go, I need to feel what other people are feeling or say what other, So I don't think I had it was later. And when I left that the real trauma came in and also the anger and the like, how was I so stupid? But of course we were born and raised into it. So it wasn't even like our parents joined it and made a choice. So there was a lot to mentally deal with.
How old were you when you sort of did leave?
Well, so I was probably 18 when I traveled a lot and but I was still involved. And it was 22, pregnant, moved to London, pregnant with my son, who's now 18. And that was when it was completely, I made the choice to try with my boyfriend. He was like, come to London, let's see if it works. But then people don't understand. They think the trauma is when you're in it, but the trauma experience of that actually comes afterwards when you actually have space to feel, right? So now I've got this kid. I don't have any education. I'm with a guy who's a good guy, but I'm at home with a baby. He goes off to work. I've always grown up with people and I'm now just in a flat. With this kid thinking, what the fuck am I going to do with my... what does life even mean? What do I believe in? What's the point of anything?
Did the alcoholism kick in while you were in the cult? Or was that when you were in the void or when you left?
All of the above. So probably when I was 17, 18, 19. So there was that double life bit where it was kind of kicking in. At least I didn't notice it as alcoholism other than drinking to forget or hanging out with people who partied or whatever it might be. Almost like when you're that sheltered, alcohol then just gives you this kind of freedom or the feeling of freedom. But it was when I had a kid and then I had my daughter as well, and my alcohol addiction just ended up getting worse. Do you think,
because I say 10% of people are chemically addicted to an alcohol, it's just hopefully, was it a chemical addiction or was it like just an emotional thing that you got used to? If you one of those people, if you have a drink, you just go mental. We'll find you in Soho when you're is it that extreme?
Well, they say it's a progressive illness, and I do believe that because I did experiment once, and it wasn't like one day in Soho, but it was 2 weeks, and then it got to some kind of carnage. Okay. What's interesting is I didn't grow up with my biological father, and I realize now there is a genetic component. Yeah, right. So I know it through his line of the family. Right, yeah. But I think it's a genetic component that needs to be activated by trauma.
Right.
So I
dated a girl once, and I could tell you any one thing about her life, and it would seem like an end of life thing, and I could tell you 10 things in her life, and she was her I can't even go through, but anyway, her mum, her real mum, she was fostered, was an alcoholic, and she had to go into one of these homes where they weren't allowed out after 7. They had to be back and all that. Her mum got kicked out because she was sneaking in mouthwash with alcohol in it. And they're just down it. And she knew somebody who was drinking paint thinner. Yeah, which would just strip your insides. But the addiction, that's like full on addiction. Yeah. When you're trying to get mouthwash, alcohol out of mouthwash,
just anything.
And she got fostered to a woman, and she was an alcoholic as well.
Oh, did she become an alcoholic though?
No, she's just one of them people that she was the way she was, and I got the stuff before that led her to there. It's like that goes on in the world. Anyway, so back to you. So you're 18. You come to London. Which part of London?
South London, Clapham.
Is that where you still are?
I'm now in Forest Hill, so I'm now southeast.
Now that's not the fellow you're with now.
No.
Did you get married to the guy?
Yes.
How long did that last?
13 years.
Oh, okay. What did he do? What job was he in?
He was in property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a long time.
It is, but bearing in mind I had 2 kids, I had no education. I didn't really know what a real relationship was, or like what to expect, or how do you make this. A lot of it was like trying to figure out where was I supposed to be, what was I supposed to do. So I think, that it was complicated. Let's just put it that way.
And you had the one kid by him.
Both kids by him.
Oh, 2 kids.
Yeah, so
you haven't had any more since then?
No.
Okay. What are they? What's their story? Are they
My
students?
Kids. So they're 18 and 16. Just finished A levels and GCSEs. It's been a stressful couple of months. And if I tell you some stories about the danger I put them in, as well as myself when they were young, right? And then when I got sober, just had to, rather than get mired in the overwhelm of guilt, I had to say to myself, like, the best parent I can be is just to repair and be a good parent now. Like, you have to look forward. I mean, my son is an A-star student. He reads books on consciousness, and we discuss generational trauma. Like, he's really interested in it, and we talk a lot about that. And my daughter's probably still figuring out a few things about her direction.
And they know all your story and all that?
Probably in an age-appropriate way. My son has asked more questions, so I've talked to him a bit more about it. What I don't harp on is the name of it, because if you Google it, it's just horrific, the stuff that you see. Because also my mom is in their life, and but they do know that I didn't go to school as a kid, and that it was a cult, but we don't go into the type of abuse or all of that.
Are your parents still around?
But yeah, so all my parents are still.
And are they still in it?
So they're not in it.
Right.
But that's complicated as well. I think my mom's still affiliated in some way. She now has, and she goes to church, and she still has that kind of faith piece as part of her life.
Where are they? What?
So they're not together anymore. My mom's actually in the UK, and my stepdad is in the US, and my biological father's in Australia.
And are you close? Are you not close? Are you friends? Do you talk once a year? What's the basic?
Well, my mom's in our life, but close is probably not the word I would use, just because once you're a parent and you see how much you want to protect your kids, it's really hard for me to fathom how much they didn't see or didn't choose to see. I do have, I interviewed my mom recently just about her story and her view of it. And some of the things that I said, her perspective was just very different.
Right.
But it ended up giving me some empathy, because I was like, oh, they're victims too. Even though they joined it, they were still victims of the belief system and the persuasion tactics, So, I wouldn't say close, but I would say civil.
So you've gone through a sort of journey of sort of finding yourself and the years of sort of building yourself up. And obviously there's going to be echoes of that thing just grasping onto you that sort of only time gets rid of. As we said, and I'm jumping forward, we'll go back. Is there any things now that are sort of still that sort of...
Yeah. Well, I have PTSD. So...
And how does that present itself?
It shows up physically. So every once in a while, I have shortness of breath. I get really sensitive to sound. I have to live quite a healthy life in order for that not to happen. But ironically, it gets triggered in relationships. And when I perceive things as controlling, even if they're not, Like I'm so like hyper vigilant and aware of like, was that a controlling thing? Like, you know, and so my body sometimes reacts in that sort of way.
And is it just to negative things, or is it to any extreme? Do you sort of kick off? Like, do you latch on to things like a flush of love or happiness, or are you one of those all in or nothing sort of things, or not? No?
No, I mean, I'm probably more prone to pushing away and being like, oh, it's not worth it. Let me focus on work, which is very good for my success story, but less good for retaining relationships and intimacy and that sort of thing.
So if things start going, you see things more extreme than they are in a negative way. You sort of emergency goes off rather than there's any sort of gradient of problem. It's just emergency.
But it's a physical response rather than like some people catastrophize and they go, everything's going to end, right? For me, my body is doing that, even though I've taught my brain to be more balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a thing, because I've had a bit of a weird life. So, but I because the life kept going up and down and sides, so I'd meet all these weird people. And it was fascinating to realize that people get locked into a type of life, whether it's sports, this, CEO, things like that. But because of accidentally, nothing in talent, I was just bouncing around all over the place. You would find something over there that made more sense over there. And one of the things I found, and I told this to somebody who had anxiety, just something simple with there's a saying in boxing, why you always see them moving is because the boxing movement relieves tension. It just does, because when you get anxiety and panic and all that, the flight and flight and all these things that we know, you have to override it. And the way you override it is like just go sprint.
It's true.
Because you need to do something. You can't sit there and do nothing.
You've
got it, but you need to do something extreme. There's no point saying, we'll go for a walk and get some fresh air. If you said, right, I'm going to have an anxiety attack, right, I need to sprint somewhere, or I need to thump that bag. I need something to override, not just, the worst thing is to sit there. And I told him, I said this guy, because he said, it'd just be nowhere. I said, well, that's something deep inside you. You could be in a shop and something will kick off. You might need a smell. You don't know that you're smelling. Yeah. And he said, I started doing it. I said, stop, completely stop. He said, I just started running. And he said, what? And it goes. And he said, now it's gone away. He said, that's because you know you've got to get out, where you're not constantly in the back of your mind thinking, oh, was that a panic? Oh, was that a panic? If you know there's something there, that sort of relieves the panic even happening. And it's, so I was Googling some stuff about it, and I thought, they don't even, that's why they see boxing movement relieves tension. That's why they're always walking around. You literally have to keep moving. Do not stop. And I'm surprised it's not more well taught. I know it's like, if you're middle-aged and you're in Tesco's, you're not going to say, well, you've got to go for a run. But you go, well, that will, if it does, you've got to just drop stuff and get out. And knowing that it's there stops the thing happening in the first place. But people don't really teach things like that, which is mental. Like, it's not pretty. You've got to just go, I've got to go and run, or I've got to go and thump something, or give me an arm wrestle or whatever right now. But it's not nice. It's not.
You can also be preventative with it. So the type of exercise I like is like HIIT, high intensity, for that very reason. Like it shakes out. But there's more research now. I mean, I think I'm in the mental health space, and isn't it hilarious that there's mental health people over here and physical health people over there, as if they don't both connect together. You know,
I was saying
that's the key
to a
thing.
doctor the other day, and I was trying to explain to him why the doctor's wrong. Which you go, well, who are you? And they're a doctor. You go, this thing of a doctor. You understand? They're generalists. They're not specialists. They're barely even qualified as a nutritionist. I think they have to do less than 2 weeks. A dietitian is 4 years, so there's a difference. So you go, well, they don't know. I'm not having a go. I'm just saying so when I had to go to doctors years ago, I went in there, doctor, huge woman, like huge. And I thought, right, you don't, what's the problem? I don't want to get into it, but you go, well, you'll know, you're a person, that's all you are, and you're a doctor. But this thing of a doctor, I've been to them going, I know you're wrong. You're not telling.
You know yourself better than anyone else.
Yeah, but I know specifically why they're saying what they're saying, and I know you're wrong, and they're still trying to force you to go another way. And so I was saying to this person, don't listen to that. What they're telling you is wrong. They just don't know. They're generalists. They can tell you a little bit about everything.
But also, they've got to get through the numbers. They've got to,
and I feel sorry for them.
I've got 20 people to get through.
I know people in there. I feel sorry for them. Anyone that's got a public-facing job where you've got to be professional, I feel sorry for you, because people don't care. And because a public-facing jobs always mean you've got a bigger company above you or the government above you, like airline pilots or whatever. You've got that government there, the company telling you there. You've got people here, and there's you in the middle that has to take all the crap on board. So I constantly feel sorry for them. But you have to find your own. Nobody's going to help you. Nobody knows you, so you have to. It's boring and it's long, and we still keep people on pedestals, doctors and things like
therapists.
that.
I'm not the only one. People in my generation would go to a therapist because we're struggling, and they will literally treat you like a fascination case study person. Ooh, tell me about this, and they'll take you there. I'm a therapist now, so I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. But, you know, so then you just feel like you're like this special person that they want to dissect rather than I'm having real things right here that I need help with. Please help me.
Yeah.
So then we go, fuck therapy. I'm not going to do it, you know, and it takes years and years before you get the right person and the right help.
Do you see a therapist now?
Not at the moment, but I have done loads.
Okay. And did it help?
Yes, once I found the right one.
I was going to say the personality. And things like
and then I kept her like right through my divorce, like when my kids were young, like, and we'd just be off and on. So like every couple of months, you know, I'd take a break and then go, hey, this big life change is happening. You know, I need a person.
What was good about her? Was it just a personality thing or?
Personality,
way?
She's not patronizing. She had the perfect balance between the listening piece, but also let's figure out some practical solutions. Because some of them, they're just like, tell me your problems. And then you just do, and great, offloading can be great, but you want someone to kind of troubleshoot it with you. So she was great at that. Like, have you thought about this side of things? Or what could be the impact there? Like provocative questions to help you think about it different.
And talking the fitness thing, like you said, there's sort of therapy and this and that, and then there's fitness there.
It winds
I tell
up.
people fitness takes care of a lot of things.
It really does. And nutrition. Like people think that bit doesn't.
Well, the idea,
basics.
Your gut is your second brain.
Sleep, nutrition, movement.
But just, it's like we're living in the dark age. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, just an old lady, bent over, hunched over in her 90s. And I said, she's like that. Do you remember doctors used to say, do not exercise because it puts a strain on your heart?
And used to say, have a cigarette as well. That would be fine.
Literally.
Guinness for strength.
Anemia, take your Guinness. But that's, you know, they were doctors. People just.
And so what do we not know now?
Yeah.
And there's great research now into psychedelics, into a whole bunch of mind-altering stuff that can support mental health and physical health.
And if you want to know about psychedelics, honestly, you should listen to like Mike Tyson talk about psychedelics. He said he'd with one trip, everything, the whole world changed. Everything he was, everything. One trip, everything changed. He then looked at himself as like, he said, I still like people looking at me. I mean, what the fuck? Like, just that. Just people, let alone, he said, I don't know who that person was. Just from that one trip, told him all the answers.
What do you think CBD or now? You can go and buy that in your chemist, but, you know, that would have been such a smear against sort of cannabis and DMT and all of that.
But the psychedelics, the psychoactive, it's the trip that you go on, which is, it's getting close to spirituality, which, okay, the world isn't ready for that now. So, but it's, they're getting close with LSD. But they're not ready for psychedelics yet because it's too close. But LSD,
lots of research being done. It's just going to take a while before it's,
I mean, it's also, I sort of, it's not funny, but I sort of feel like you kind of almost need a certain generation of old farts just to die, and then you can kind of move. You know, what happened in America, obviously recently.
Although there is an old fart who discovered LSD, who is the one that's kept pushing and pushing.
Not all old farts, but you know, like old farts who have the ones who make the laws and stuff like that because of something I read in the 90s. It's a bit like a lot of things. You know, it's like grammar. Or you can't begin a sentence with a conjunction. Why can't you? No. Because somebody wrote that in a textbook 50 years ago, and then that became the accepted thing.
What's a conjunction?
So like an and or a but or a however.
I still think that. Yeah, it doesn't feel right.
It depends. I think it depends on the sentence.
Right,
you absolutely
depends on what you're trying to create.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's also sometimes by breaking up a sentence and having it begin with a conjunction, you give it a kind of staccato.
If you were to explain to somebody what conjunction means, what would it say in the dictionary?
So it'd be like a word that links.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because to start a sentence with the word but. I've never.
But you could do that for effect. So quite often for comedy, you might do it for effect.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So it'd be like, there's the joke about Anakin Skywalker, who's the little boy who becomes Darth Vader, and the joke is Anakin, because it's a quote from the film. He says, "I won't be a problem," and then it cuts to a picture of Morgan Freeman, and it's like, "But as it would turn out, Anakin was a problem," and so the joke is because it's the full stop. But as it turned out,
so they have the thing about Darth Vader when he was a kid.
Yeah, that's one of the Star Wars prequels.
What does he look like?
He looks like a little boy. That's kind of the whole point. Is
the
idea.
I don't know what you're going to explain. He looks like
do you know what I mean? What did Hitler look like as a baby? Well, he had the tash and everything. He came out.
He's in a suit.
Yeah, exactly.
There's photographs of Hitler without the tash.
I don't know if there's one
because he did copy Chaplin. That's where he got it from.
Possibly, I think it was just the fashion. But there's famously from World War One in inverted commas. There's fashion maybe that was the trend we might say. But there's a picture of him with a big bushy moustache, and then he just shaved it off. I can't remember what the reason was.
Right. Well, they say history is just us in funny clothes.
And people look back at us wearing. We all think we are.
Where's your moustache?
Well, it's attached to the beard. Yeah, exactly. It's
Oh, God, we're going Hitler and hang on, where so you met somebody, you left the cult, you come out, you're a bit of a void, you don't know what to do. What are the first things because I didn't learn to read till I was nearly 30, and I didn't have TVs or anything, so I was like that. I didn't know who was who. I didn't know who you're supposed to respect. I didn't know what politicians were. What were the first things you learned? Because my first thing was proactively, I had to copy the dictionary to learn to read. So what were the first things you started to...
interestingly, we learned to read from a very young age in the communes because that's how they would serve us our propaganda. Yeah. Right. So reading, I was good at. And then I ended up like having a contraband library card. I used to sneak books.
Contraband?
Yeah.
Isn't that like there's something wonderful about that?
Oxymoron. Yeah. So that I would read voraciously. So when you're talking about...
sorry, that was great. Contraband, library card. Right, I know everything.
But that's very Orwellian, isn't it? Because, they will have to have...
And I would get books about like gay people's stories or like people like just fiction, like people's story. And I'd read Stephen King and it would be like, blew my mind. Yeah. Tommyknockers, holy shit, man.
One of the worst films in the world, but okay.
But it's not the movie.
No, I know,
the book. Yeah. But it was just like that any of this was possible. Say something?
When Blockbusters was like, this has stayed with me as a kindness. When I went to hire, it's one that was in Blockbuster and I didn't know what to get. And I thought, oh, there's Stephen King. I think he's good. And the guy that was doing the DVDs, he said, are you sure you want to hire this? Because it's really rubbish.
That happened to
you. And I got it. And I thought, oh, he was right. God bless him.
That happened to a friend of mine who works
Don't do the movies.
Yeah, he works for Sky Movies. And so I think he was on holiday when he was meant to have seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, the M. Night Shyamalan one.
Yeah.
And he said he went up to, so he was like, oh, I should probably see this because I'm going home, in a couple of days. So I'm sure it'll be in the charts. So I'll have to talk about it. And he went up to the desk and he said, can I have one to see Avatar: The Last Airbender? And he said, the young lad behind the desk went, why?
Genuinely, yeah.
That's the person selling you the ticket. And then they said, all right, you've got 15 minutes. And after that, I can't give you a refund.
Right, yeah.
Just think, God, you get 15 minutes.
I don't know why it got such a bad rap. It's just a film. What's the big deal?
I don't know. I think because he was sort of bigged up. It's the classic thing of he's bigged up and then you get piled on.
So we're going to come back. What films, did you watch any films before the age of 16 or 17?
Yeah, but like The Ten Commandments, Charlton Heston, Jesus of Nazareth.
Did you go to the cinema?
No.
When was your first cinema experience?
I think I was 15.
What did you see? Can you remember?
Yeah, it was awful. It was like the movie about Beethoven. As in, it wasn't awful, but it was like about Beethoven. Okay. It wasn't like it was pretty a blockbuster. Right, yeah, it was. But that was my first experience of a cinema.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what was you talking
but
about?
I wasn't stupid. Like I could read. I could read. We did basic stuff like I've never taken a science lesson in my life though. I've never taken, so what were the first things I learned? Well, I had a bloody kid to look after and I didn't know what to do with my life. You know what I mean? So the quick version is I ended up training to be a counselor. So I did like 1 day a week. I ended up becoming a youth worker. That was like my first job. I then, I lied about GCSEs. I've never done GCSEs in my life. That was my nice little entryway. So I knew how to hustle.
Why? It sounds like an odd question because it's a very noble profession. But why counselling? Is it because of what you'd experienced? You thought, I want to help others.
Not really. Not enough. No? Like I think eventually that was the seed of it. But it was also like, what's the baseline that I have? I have grown up all over the world helping people. So like doing projects, like genuinely like working in different projects, working in slums, like from being a kid. So the only thing I knew how to do was help people, was listen, So I was like, what career lines up with that? And so youth work was one thing, because I'd worked with teenagers at different youth camps and stuff in the past. So that was a baseline. And then the therapy stuff, I didn't know how much it was going to help me to help others eventually. It was just like, how do I do something? What's my kind of easy win?
Were you were living with the fella, the dad?
Yeah.
And was he sympathetic to all of this? Did he know even?
He did. No, I remember moving in and his friends had printed about 80 pages of the most sensationalist horror stuff on the children of God. And had just been like, we think she's going to, try and steal you into the cult.
They were warning him off.
Yeah, they were trying to be good mates and warn him, right? So bless him, he was like, trying to base it on what we had, not what all the stories were. But it certainly was stuff that, because I wasn't quite clear yet, like that didn't represent my experience. It wasn't like some big sensationalist thing the whole time. It was like, let's have breakfast at 9,
Yeah.
So he did know to an extent, but it did cause friction, of course.
But I mean, that's quite sort of, that shows, that's sounding too condescending, I hope, but that does show real strength of character on his sort of part to just be like, no, I'm not the book, the person.
Agreed.
That's what I'm going to base my decision on.
And he went through quite a bit with me then, descending into alcohol addiction and him standing by me and in his own way trying to do his part, How
old was the kid when the booze started to kick in properly? Baby, was it?
Yeah, so probably, it was at its worst when I had 2, so he would have been 4 or 5 and she was 2.
Oh, okay.
So that's when, I tell this story on stages now where I went to IKEA. This is now sounding like a boring story, but they've got those little Swedish wines. I tried to be sober for a couple months and then I went to IKEA, bought a shitload of stuff I didn't need. I just had him with me and started drinking these little Swedish wines. Getting round to my car eventually with a whole pile of stuff. And now I was like so hammered because I just kept going round and round and round. Yeah. And I get to my car and I pick up the phone, tears streaming down my cheeks as I pick up I call somebody from AA, right? And I go, I'm about to drive and I've been drinking and I've got my son with me. And she was like, I'm coming to get you. And I just, as she was saying that, I then felt shame and I felt bad. So I'm like crying and I went, no, don't worry, I'm going to be fine. And the next thing I remember, I'm in a head-on collision with another vehicle, having driven in blackout with my son in the back. Just a little flavor of some of the rock bottom moments.
I thought it could be like an Outer Limits. It was the woman that came to save you that you crashed into.
Like a weird twist.
Yeah.
That's a good baseline.
And when you were drinking, looking back on the time now, was there anything in your head? Was it an immediate feeling? Was it an anxiety? Why did you grab the booze? Was it just a general numbing?
I think booze, whenever, even though I'd only had little access to booze in different places, so I didn't necessarily go down this and I wasn't realizing how traumatized I was. The cycle is, and it's very interesting that people go, what comes first, depression or alcoholism, right?
Yeah.
Because you go, well, I'm drinking because I'm depressed and I'm drinking because of this trauma. And I was very good at hanging around the right people, telling them the right stories so they would go, oh my God, of course. And of course, if I was raised like that, I would do that too. And at first it gives you this sense of like, right? And over time, it just doesn't work anymore. So you keep having more and more and more. And then you wake up with the shame of what, I'd wake up with ripped clothes. I once lost my car. I don't think my ex-husband knows this anymore. But I was just like, I woke up and I was like, where the fuck is my car? And I'd left my son in the house and I'd gone to the pub in the car, had a couple of drinks and walked back, but left my car somewhere. I would wake up and look at the hood of my car to see if I'd killed anyone.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I would literally, I'd be like, I'm just going to go outside.
And in case there's any lawyers listening, that never happened. It was never like, a smear.
You never said you found anything on
never den.
Nobody died. Which is lucky because I do, whenever I hear these newspaper articles, these stories of like someone careens into a family on a sidewalk, like I break out into a sweat because I'm like, I just don't know if anything, I was lucky in that sense.
There's a guy in America a couple of weeks ago. He left his kid in the car out in the heat, and the child died, the baby. God. And he's going through the court case, and he's just killed himself. Not terrible, you think? Because he wasn't
because he was drunk or something.
I don't know if he was drunk. It was just
it was not intentional.
No, but then he killed himself. Which
how do you live with that?
Because you can't rationalize what. Anyway, so.
But I changed things. Life changed.
How long did the alcoholism around for?
So I think I was 28. So my son was like, yeah.
And what was the turning points?
So that car crash was one. Yeah. There were probably a couple more there's this one kind of scene in my memory that I always remember, which is I woke up super early. Kids were asleep. It must have been 5 a.m. And I was just woke up, not with just like a feeling of dread or where's my car like before, but like, I cannot do this anymore.
Oh, okay.
Like I was just like done. I either have to take my life or I have to do something different. And so for some reason, this other thought dropped in my mind in the same hour. And it said, what if you postpone taking your life for 1 year? Yeah, that one. So and I don't know, like I tell people that's not advice. But I just said, wait for a year. And for some reason in that year, you talked about movement and it's not a one size fits all. Yeah. I just ended up experimenting in a haphazard, non-perfect way with all the well-being tools and all this stuff that people said would help. Got sober, got the community of people to support me, tried meditating, just all these different things. And that whole year kind of came and went, and life wasn't, of course it wasn't perfect. I hadn't built up a career or anything, but I didn't feel suicidal anymore. And I learned a few principles, and I wasn't depressed anymore, which is interesting. People are like, depression's a chemical imbalance. It isn't always. It's your environment. It's like, are you fulfilled? Who's around you? Are you moving? What kind of lifestyle are you living?
Yeah.
Did was the marriage, the end of the marriage, was that part of the...
So that had been sober for a while before we...
But was it part of that year of change?
No.
Oh, okay. Was it before or after?
When I got married?
When you divorced?
Oh, no. I got divorced only 5 years ago. So,
okay.
So we stayed together while I was sober for a little while.
Oh, and I'm fascinated by divorces.
Yeah, there's so much fun.
No, because my thing is, when I'm around people, I always like them more.
If they're divorced?
No, I just like people. The more I'm around you, the more I know about you, the more I like you. And I think, when does it become...
but 24/7.
What?
All the time.
Yeah.
It's probably not that, but you think, surely you're around somebody, when does it go bad? Unless they do something.
It's like, it's you can fall out with friends.
But it's not even falling out. It's the classic growing apart. Like, what kind of lifestyle do you... what do I see the next 10, 20 years of my life to look like? And our vision of that was very
but I understand
different.
that for 5, 10 years. But over the 10 years, you go, surely now that's part of you. Like, what then happens?
Well,
I'm not going to ask specifically, but did anything specific happen or not?
Nothing. No. Nobody like cheated there was nothing dramatic or anything like that. I was listening to this marriage podcast though that said nobody should ever get married before the age of 30. Was the advice from an eminent
that's what I've been saying. Right, I've been saying that since day dot, and now people are catching up.
They're just like, your brain isn't. You're not going to make a good decision.
It's mental. I even say career. You're not allowed to do anything until you're 25. You're not allowed to make, because you don't know anything about yourself.
But what? You should just sit there like an idiot.
Travel, get part-time jobs. Don't get on any ladder that you're not going to be able to get, because the second the job starts, that's when the mortgage kicks in. That's when the baby kicks in there. And now you're 25 and you're up a bloody ladder that you can't come
Bitter,
down.
are we?
It's all right.
Bitter, are we?
No, I just think the world's mental. Don't do it. Going to uni at 18. You don't know anything.
Oh,
Sciences,
uni at 19,
that's the only time you should go to the uni if you're going to do a science or medical or something like that.
Agreed.
No, you're not. You're a child.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a degree in media studies, so I can't really,
And marriage, no, you're not allowed to get
watching
married.
TV.
Here's the thing. I've said this on the podcast before. If I said, well, why not? Why do you need to? Why do you need to get married?
Society's pressure of going in a particular direction.
That's what you do.
Which is hilarious, given that I grew up in a cult and then was like, the world is a wonderfully free place. And then I realized it's exactly what you described.
Yeah.
Go this way, this way, this way, this way.
We can't trust you. So we're going to have to, and I don't like to go to sort of fascism because that's where things tend to bend. I think I'm not fascist.
No, we just need to celebrate going this way.
Do everything.
Yeah.
It's like, I said, imagine if you could go to uni for free at 25. Imagine how different your world would be. In marriage, again, if you say, look, there's no need to get married. You can have a relationship, all that, but we don't allow marriages before 25 years old. It was like, it would solve so much. Mental health, you would be doing more. You would marry the person that you sort of, at least now you know who you are. If I was to explain the situation now with marriage and relationship, you go, you don't know. Who does
I think
this?
I think it's also the
expectation. You know everything at that age. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
From
it's
about
embarrassing.
At what age did your kids start knowing everything?
16.
16.
But,
sounds about right.
But my son has a healthy thirst for knowledge. So the more he knows, the more he knows he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got an awareness.
Yes.
Yeah, I do sometimes think you can't trust people. And I'm the biggest liberal in the world, but sometimes you have to lay the law down and go, you're not...
But also, do you have kids?
All the language sounds fascist and I'm not. I'm the opposite.
You're like one of those countries that's the Democratic Republic of
the People's Republic.
And it's always like, they might as well just call it the fascist junta.
But it's not though. People...
You know how every generation has to make their own mistakes?
Yeah.
Because as a parent, you can be like, I guide you this way. Don't do this. All the things you're saying.
Yeah.
And then they're like, but I want to do that.
But then you've got media now where they're trying to make kids adults before they know what they are. Sexualized finance, credit cards. Come and learn about, here's a credit card. Well, you can have a practice credit, but join the police at 16. You can do it when you're 14 and practically go.
Yeah.
They don't, because it's like the army. They get you when you're young, when you will kill people before you've got any sort of moral code. But it's so mental and so ubiquitous. You think,
it's so they can get consuming as soon as possible.
Yeah, they basically
That's what it is.
There's always going to be a give us your money at the end of it. What I was saying to this thing, what's his name? Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. They've removed both parents from the house now. Yeah, because you would have had you would have had somebody at home.
Oh, I see.
And they've just shoved the TV screen in front of your face.
Yeah.
And you go, the problem's so, you go, yeah, you know. You go, no, you don't know that capitalism is bringing up your child. And it's so big that you can't stare it in the face. You go, that child's been looking at adverts. It thinks it's older. It thinks it's more sexual. The porn, the violence and all that. It doesn't know what it wants, but they've got both parents out the way, given them a TV screen now, which immaturity doesn't usually go up. It only gets the ones down. But it's caught social media and the vanity and what has gone up the ladder. So now you don't have the sort of masculinity. That's gone. They got rid of that immediately. So now you've got kids that have been brought up. Look at the screen.
Have you watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix?
No.
It literally, there's this one bit where it says when technology went up, there's like a graph where it goes up, mental illnesses in the young people literally is going up at the same time at an extreme kind of angle. And you just think, is nobody like realizing?
Yeah, you realize nobody's got the steering wheel and you go, holy Jesus Christ, where's this go?
But I mean, to sort of bring it into kind of what you do, I suppose technology is probably contributing to adults, to people in the workplace being mentally healthy, because you can't ever switch off. It's a bit like bullying. You can't ever, excuse me, at school, you can't ever not be bullied because you want to be on TikTok, you want to be on Instagram or whatever. And so that's how they get you. And so at work, you've got to be on, on your phone, you need Slack or whatever, all these different ones. So you can be talking and so they can email you during the day. But then, of course, then the emails suddenly become 6:05, 6:30.
This is what I was talking to somebody last week. I said, when did going home not end the day?
Yeah.
I know.
'Cause it used to.
Yeah.
So when did work become, it's slowly boiled frog. So now midnight. Yeah, and it's all.
Now it's like these global companies that are on like at weird hours because their other side is in the US.
Doesn't France have a law that you can't email people or something, or recently?
Yeah, after a certain time.
Yeah, you can't. You're not. I think it's at lunchtime. So at lunch, you have to leave your desk. You're not allowed to stay there. Might be making this up, but
that's also a cultural thing that quite often French people will go. I mean, broad sweeping statement, but the idea is they have a long lunch.
Yeah.
The idea being so you can go home and have lunch with your family.
Yeah.
And then go back. I think that's also the case in Belgium as well.
Yeah, there's little. I was saying to somebody last time I saw him, that just little things like you've got to compartmentalize your life. Don't eat when you're doing your work. Don't walk and eat. Just cut that. Just if you're walking anywhere and eat that, stop. I don't eat unless I sit down. Tell yourself that. And it's only small, but you do a lot of those small things, and that's how everything changes. So talk about changing your life. So you started to get better. You started to figure things out. I know it's an ongoing process, but then you started to set up what you're doing now, which is what?
Yeah, so a mental health consultancy called PVL,
What's PVL?
So it's my name, Petra Velzeboer Limited.
And how do you say surname?
Velzeboer.
Velzeboer.
Portuguese or something?
Dutch.
Oh, that's Dutch. Okay.
Yeah, Velzeboer.
Oh, Boer. Is that South African? No.
It's the Afrikaans
that's why
is like
thought,
similar to Dutch.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's only been going on the last couple of years. Before that, I trained as a therapist. I then got a master's degree, which was hilarious in itself. I just remember sitting in this interview going, why would they, what? I lied about GCSEs. I'm like, how is this going to, because I never did a degree. I just kind of skipped the step to get a master's.
That's quite impressive.
I mean,
you say, look, I was in look, read the newspaper articles. Don't waste my time with.
I was like, I don't have 2 years, man. I need this
one. So you did various therapies.
So then I was a youth worker. I worked in the charity sector. I worked in corporate well-being, and then I thought I was so sick of working in places that were advising other people what to do. You must do this, and then they were so toxic on the inside. And I was thinking, I grew up in that.
Yeah.
I grew up in it. I cannot do it anymore. And so I just tried all the places that I thought could work, and I just had to go, fuck it, I'm going to start my own thing, which has been scaling and growing. And of course, the pandemic has made everybody interested in mental health. But really, we try and make it like sustainable. So it's like, what's your strategy? How do we think about this on a whole culture perspective, not just the tick box, the app to speak about technology? Like those are being invested in left, right, and center. And I'm not against technology, But I don't know many people who actually track their mental health on an app or report that it, remarkably makes their mental health better. So I'm like, if that's all the things we're pushing at in companies, it's not solving the problem.
Yeah.
So we're all about human connection, psychological safety, a sense of belonging, and doing it ourselves, because that's what's really important to me, is that we ask each other about mental health and do what we're telling other people to.
A lot can be solved with just people meeting face to face. I don't want to get into spirituality because, again, the society's not there yet. But a lot can be solved by some people pick up on other people's energy, and that solves a lot of things. And but going back to the app, I know a guy that does the Weight Watchers. Do you know Weight Watchers has changed its name now? Because it's too much Weight Watchers. It's a bit full on for people.
Well, it's like
wellness
disorder
matters or something now.
Yeah.
Is it called wellness? I thought it was just called WW now.
It's wellness watchers, probably something.
Wellness watchers. They're watching out for anyone who's got wellness and
say whale
hunting
watchers.
them down.
No.
Whale watchers.
But he uses the app. And you go
track calories.
Yeah, but do you know when somebody's trying to do something good and you don't want to talk against it because you go, I'm not against it.
No.
You do. But it's going, well, the apple's 1.5, but if I do the steps, it counts my steps, so that means it gives me 2 points. And you're going, right, this is not on the go. You can't live like this.
No.
And that's not specific. It doesn't know your metabolism. That's broad at best.
Yeah.
And you can't go. And it's like, as I said to you, you said what you've got is you've replaced a sort of parenting figure. You're trusting that thing onto you. That's broad. 1.5 what? When you're walking, were you walking upstairs? Were you walking downstairs? There's so much wrong. But in your head, you're going, don't criticize it.
It's about control, though. It's like we're all just trying to control different aspects of our lives in order to be as successful and as Instagrammable as possible.
Well, I know a guy who's trained out of vanity, nothing else. Just I'm going to train this and I train that and it's near the weekend. I train harder because I'm going out. Yeah, it's amazing. But
I look great.
And he would always have this thing of like, well, I can't eat this because of the thing, and we can't go there because they don't serve. And I said, you keep going about like you think you're in control. You're the least in control person because you're scared of that chocolate. You're scared of the chicken with the thing in. You're petrified and you're telling, no, I do the thing. No, you're in constant state of fear because you can't go, I can train and I can have the cheesecake and not panic and go, well, just train. You're, but it creeped in so much that it's all encompassing. I said, you're petrified of everything. But in his head, all that control.
It's like obsession.
Yeah. So the guy with the app, I said, you can't keep living by that. That's not you. Don't trust that bloody another screen that we stare at. Like, oh, the screen says that doesn't know anything. Anyway, so I'm not a fan of apps and things. I think they serve a purpose, but they should be absolutely temporary. Human beings need to meet.
Yeah.
I was trying to say when I get things about people want to do interviews over the line. This happens with somebody who won't even meet. I just don't do it. I don't care if it's beneficial. I don't do it. I'm not living in that way. I'm going to ride my life out in this bubble that I know. And it's because we're going to have the same question. You don't understand. It's not the same thing. It is not the same. I need to see your eyes, that you're feeling, how you're moving. That is a soft part of an entire conversation. But you explain it to somebody who just does things over the line. They don't get it. No, it's fine because we're not going to be able to do it otherwise. I don't care. I'm not bothered. I'm just doing things.
Yeah.
So what if I presented myself to, if Andrew presented himself to, if David presented himself, he's the safer one. If he comes to you and said, right, I've got problems.
Yes.
I'm stressed. I'm anxiety.
Aww,
and don't sell
David.
this.
These guys are stressful, aren't you?
Actually, I shouldn't have picked him. He was broke. He had his heart broken.
Now's your chance. Offload.
He had his heart broken about 6 months ago.
Oh, that's such...
What was it? Listen, I'm not.
He wrote it down.
I'm not just a CEO.
David, by the way, is our producer.
CEO. You know, I care about people.
That's painful.
So it might be of leave David. Andrew, he's a bit more cold.
I'm a bit more cold. That's nice.
Well, let me stop you first.
Yeah.
Because first of all, when people say about mental health, they immediately go, "Tell us what's wrong with you," right? Whereas if you think about like the mental health continuum, one side is crisis and struggling. The other side is excelling and thriving. So we want to like get away sometimes from the mental health is what's wrong with you, how are you struggling? And all the stuff we were talking about before, environment, tech, all this stuff, like how can we also make each other thrive? And that's, I guess, the premise from where we come from when it comes to mental health at PVL. But if there's a problem, I can also help.
Okay.
But is it?
I feel all right, to be honest.
So he comes and he says,
What's he going to decide?
I know.
Yeah,
I thought anything about you.
problem?
I have to be careful. I mean, he's obviously his employer, isn't it? But just say an ambiguous character comes to you.
Yes.
I've got anxiety. My relationships are crap.
Yeah.
I'm feeling down. I don't want to go on chemicals. I don't know what to do. What's your general questions? What's the first rough?
So my assessment is always tell me about your lifestyle, tell me about your community, your friendships, like how do you live? Because that gives me that kind of holistic view. Right. Of course, in my workplace, in where I'm a CEO, it's more about the culture, manager levels, senior exec levels, HR, like how are they viewing this topic for the demographic in their business?
Yeah.
How psychologically safe is it? Like, will people even talk about it, right? Which is different from if I'm a therapist or a coach, where I might just go a little bit deeper into things.
What are you working on within yourself at the moment? What still hangs on?
Relationship.
And what part? Well, you're in a relationship.
I am in a relationship. So it's not to get the relationship. It's like to navigate the masculine and feminine, to navigate, like,
right. And what's your
compromise
opinion of
is
that?
a dirty word to me because I've like grew up in that environment. So I find it real. I'm like, how can we invest? Like, I need other language.
Right.
And arguably I sometimes come from more of the masculine, like fix it, just go kind of perspective. And also the relationship with a founder, kind of startup founder, and a person who just wants to have a holiday and live a good life, there can be a bit of friction, right? About like time, like how do you spend time? And I'm like, my brain will just like assume you're going to be there no matter what. And I'm going to go 1,000 miles an hour this way because that's what I want to do. And you've got to factor in both people's thoughts and feelings.
And what do you do for sort of like, what's your hobbies or things you do in your leisure time? Books, films?
Do you have a leisure time as a CEO?
Yeah, I'm like, exercise for sure. And then people. So I like just like small groups so that we can talk about deep topics. Like I find that fun rather than like out partying kind of vibe. I used to travel quite a bit more. So now it's coming back. But my dream was to get paid to travel. So when people go, we'll pay you this much to do a keynote and put you up in a hotel and
to do what?
Get your plane ticket. Do a keynote. So I speak at conferences and events.
The martial art, keynote.
So that's for me is like winning.
Right.
So I've got a couple of those coming up where I'm like,
but what do you mean travel? What does that mean?
So go to another location and then make the most of it.
I mean,
no. So I have to speak at a conference. They're going to pay me to speak at a conference.
Oh, okay.
And then they're going to put me up in a hotel.
You mean do you work overseas in different locations? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you just mean sitting on review a plane. The food wasn't very nice.
No.
I didn't know what travel. What does that mean? I just want to walk around. And, that would be to do that thing. If you had enough money to say, right, for 2 years, I'm sodding off with a few quid, and I'm just going to work in bars all over the world. Just pay the rent wherever I go and see what happens. That's quite good, isn't it? In fact, that would be.
But
part
that's
of
what you should do before you're 25.
That's what I was just about to say. That should be built into this. There should be. Because you're going to get it back long term in terms of mental health and health.
I did all that. I grew up in.
But if they said the government say, right, you're 25, you get this amount of money to travel for this amount of time.
The UK is the worst country for education and for the amount of debt. And I mean, the US is the amount of debt, but the amount of like go in this direction only. It's not ideal.
It's one of the things that will kill me is the stress of the time, the stupidity of the time I live in, and you can't do it. It's too big. The problem what
is your sphere of influence is what you've got to focus on. So what's in, and that for Mr. Anxiety over here, it would be what's in your control. Mr. Broken Heart, I'd be like, which bit's in your control and what bit isn't, and what amount of time do you need to transition to make that sphere of influence
because
bigger.
I started too late in life, so it's like I'd
I
run for
started
government.
late in life.
I'd run for it, and I'd go right. I'm
don't
just
wanna be
war.
in
I'm bringing
with those
war.
politicians.
I'm not playing the rules anymore. I've got nothing to lose. I don't care the way the system is set up and I've got to be careful what I say. But when I went to the House of Parliament, or whichever one I went to speak to one of the MPs, and I'm just looking around the place and going, "This is just what is this?
It's just
this isn't
elitist.
wow, mate." I'm just thinking, this shouldn't be here. This is like a joke. Like, I'm embarrassed that this is here. And like, I mean, I'm like a dream, like walking through this old place with old people that the energy's just gone. There's no, this is like they're up in the clouds and there's no relevance to this. And you walk out and you go, well, that's the world. And this is this weird thing that sits on top. I said before, like, when I was traveling from East London, Central London, or the other way, and you're coming out, and you see like the centre of London, you see the Barclays banks and the HSBC, you go, that must be like, they're castles, they're modern day castles. You can't go in them, that's where the power is, that's where the elite are. And you go, well, that's what Rome looked like. Nothing's changed. They just changed the words. We live in there's the castles, and here we are at the bottom. Go,
who has power and who doesn't?
Why? I don't know what to do. It's too big to change, but this is embarrassing. So I just thought, right, just my bubble, my little universe. This is the world I'm going to live in, and I'm going to try and force stuff and do things so that maybe further down the line, because people that changed my life, you know, died 50 years before me. So you've just got to be another link. That's what it's just being. Do your thing and leave it behind, because your time isn't now. You've just got to do a message that for other people will then eventually change that. And you don't have the frustration thinking you can't change this, because I always think people that gave us weekends and didn't send kids up chimneys, they didn't see the effects of what they were going to do. So that's just you're thankful for the stuff they did for you, and now you do something for them. I thought, well, that's good
now
enough.
Arguably the workplace now needs to evolve again, because factories and then offices and and now with the pandemic and just mental health and technology, it's like,
well, business itself
work needs to
me
change.
off, because because I didn't start life. I came out cold, and I don't know the way things work and how things have been, but that's wrong, and that I don't care about how billionaire, it's all wrong. And I was talking to a business guy that I'm working with now, talking about the business that we're going to set up with the podcasting. I said, why are people only paid just enough?
Yeah, to survive.
Why does a CEO take all the money? Because that's the world you've grown up in. That's what is it. Well, why?
Do you take all the money?
I was waiting for that.
No, but you take all the risks. So that's fine.
Yeah.
But
I would take all the money, for the record.
No, but you should have a good life because you took the risk and think. But I said, why not just, what's the market rate? Right, pay them 30% more, because then you're going to get all the best people. And
you're not necessarily going to get all the best
No,
people.
but I mean, you'll get at least a choice of that. Because people just want the money. Then you give them, because I always said you have to have the most money, the best working environment, and the best working terms. So I always say, I was talking to David.
And purpose these days.
And have them just working 4 days a week, and tell them, for that 5th day, go and work somewhere. Be with other people. Don't just sit here everywhere. I want you to come back here and want to look forward to being here. And the CEO in America was the first one. He said, I don't take more than, I think it's double the next person, and it works the way down. Because well, there's no need. So and people like, because there's no need for me to take 50 times more than my assistant and blah, 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 blah. I think, yeah. So I don't know, because I won't do any work. I'm only going to be around people I like seeing. That is it. Interviews, that's it. I always meet people before I work with them, because I want to know if I like it. I generally don't read CVs. I just see, how do they communicate?
What do they even say
Did they
to
answer
you?
emails?
Yeah.
Were they polite? Were they enthusiastic? Did they listen? Did they talk? And if I like them, then I work with them, because I just want to work around those sort of people. That's it. I don't know when like other companies work. And I don't know why work has become a struggle word.
It really has.
You should be doing something you like. And I go, yeah, but this doesn't. Yeah, I know generally you need people to build walls, but some people like building walls. And you pay people the right amount. It's like I'm looking at a mirror that's completely shattered society and go, it's all busted up, and children, man, they don't know what they're doing. And it's so simple. Everything comes back to childish simplicity. Even politics. I said before, politics is easy. It's how much money have we got? What does it need to be spent on? That's, I heard an economist said, it's nothing more than, it was sexist.
But
he said a housewife.
About power and greed.
No, but this is the thing. He said, no, it's what any housewife does. How much money have I got? What do I need to spend the money on? The problem is you have to go through one person. How does it affect him, the prime minister or whatever? How does all that money has to go filtered through me? But what is it you want? Because that's now the money starts going all like here. And then you've got your party, which then tell you sort of what to do. And then it goes through all these things. So you've got this bucket of water with all these spurting things going out. And you go, but how does this is a joke. How does this become normal? So going back to just the CEO, when people say, "Oh, you must be so knackered," when you say, "No, I love what I'm doing. I'm not pissed off." That's the 80s. That was all bullshit. That was just miserable sods taking all the money and being moany. That is gone now. So you've got to lead by example. Because I don't even tell people how much I'm working because they don't believe me. But I said to somebody that I said basically I'm doing about 120 hours a week every single week. Every Sunday I'm up for 24 hours because there's 24 hours I'm up. I was just saying to David, every Sunday I don't sleep for one day. I'm up the whole time. And you wish me a nutter. You go, no, because I like everywhere I go. Wherever I'm with people, I like where I go. It's that thing of a CEO being miserable and money grabbing. You go, it's not the 80s. If you are like that, it's because you're stupid or you're useless. You're just a weak person that's just very good at one thing.
That. But thankfully it has changed.
But that's a weakness. If you've got all that money and all that freedom financially and you're still stressed, that's a problem with you. You're not firing on all cylinders. You need help. It's not a success. I don't judge people by, oh, well, he does that one thing. I was talking to somebody, well, actually, again, a few times about Steve Jobs. Oh, he's an amazing person. You go, yeah, he's also a fucking arsehole. He's also a thief, stole from his friends. But he did that thing. Yeah, so did Hitler. He was a great orator.
Yeah,
what you got to? But this thing of, well, he did that one thing. He said, no, I judge people by their weaknesses. How many weaknesses have you got? Because that's what tells you everything. Same in the country. Don't tell me about the GDP and the stock exchange and ASDAQ or whatever. Do they have food banks? Yeah, how many? That's what I judge the company on. How are the weakest members? Because no point pointing that out over there because that doesn't affect most people. You judge the company by the weaker people. That's how I'd flip it all around and go, this is how we're going to judge success of a company now. It's going to be based on how many food banks they have. Oh, America and England. Oh, well, you're useless. So, and just flip the charts around like that. Let's get off of that. So, your company. So, where are you based? Do you have an office, or is it?
We don't have an office because we're all remote. We're all in different New York, Scotland. Okay. We're kind of spread out all over the place, which we quite. It's a blessing and a curse because I do work from my house, and I just miss human connection as well. So thankfully, it's coming back.
I was surprised by listening to you because I'm always analysing anything before I speak to anyone. Yeah. Because everything they do. I think you're laughing. No. He often laughs at me.
So did I. I was like, what's he been listening to?
No, because it's not bad. Listen, I can't even tell you all the stuff because you go, well, he's mental. But it's not. I look at everything and I think, well, firstly, I was shocked by the one of your biggest weapons is the story of you being in a cult. And it's a thing you haven't done a lot with. I thought, this is your time, like these decade. And I was thinking I should introduce it to this person. I spoke to somebody about
I should do more about the cult?
Yes. It's come now at the right. This is the time we needed to do that story. Books, podcasts. So I've already spoken
in the works.
I've spoke to a guy already. He wants to speak to you about a podcast that we're producing for him. I said, she'd be perfect for you.
Please do.
Right. So, and another bloke who would be it's quite a popular show. But anyway, so, because I don't like things that are out of joint. I think, why are you not doing that, and that? I need to fix it. Click it all into place.
Do that on your 120 hours.
I was planning it already for 3 days ago. So
amazing.
Anyway, and I've already spoke to somebody who I had a meeting with, and I spoke to him at the time. But I said, she's not doing the thing, and why is that not there? And anyway, and you speak naturally well, which you could say about a lot of people, but it's not true. Because I think, like me, and I hate to say things like that, but if you're cocooned in a world for a while and you come out, you can't get enough of the things you missed. Where if you've been around it all the time, like I miss hugging people.
It's like endless curiosity.
Yeah. I want to be around people. I want to talk to people. I want to tell me everything you know about everything you've done. I want to bore you with, tell me the details. And you speak well. And when I listened to you, you did a thing on the BBC with a Brazilian woman.
Oh, yeah.
Something, is that Brazilian? Something, yeah. It was only a short thing. And I thought, I couldn't tell if you were the interviewer or, because it just kicks in, which annoyed me. I thought, well, you haven't explained anything at the beginning. Probably we can talk.
That's
glass houses. Yeah. But I thought you listen. So the patterns, I think you're listening as much as you're talking. That takes a lot. That's accidental. That's just you. You can't train that. And I know you did the podcast for a while and then you stopped. When did you stop? Like 2020 or did it start in 2020?
No, 2021, I think I paused it.
Okay, yeah. Which was, what was it called? Because you can still get it.
Adversity to Advantage.
Yeah, you did like 100 and something, didn't you?
I also did a podcast for Spotify about mental health in the music industry called Killing It, which I think was a great conversation as well.
Yeah. See, I think, well, I don't want to go into pre-production stuff, but yeah, anyway. So, but I just thought, oh, she's a really natural, you speak like somebody that's been at the BBC as a reporter for like
Well, you
decades.
say natural, but I know the process of learning. You know what I mean?
No, but some
it's
people
the
can't
10,000 hour rule.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no,
yeah. But I think there's a natural component
because your natural curiosity,
yes,
isn't the same as somebody that does it for a job. No matter how much it's actually, and because it's patterns. Because reporters speak with a pattern for you, and it's not as good as when you speak because you vary. Reporters don't vary their pattern, and it makes me sound like a bloody lunatic, but it's because I see things in patterns. So when somebody's talking, it's like comedians. I can't listen to them because all I can see is how they're moving, why they change the microphone hand, why they start going that way, why they do the thing. Have you ever listened to Bill Burr? Not Bill Burr. Who's the comedian, the American left wing, really left wing on like, oh, you do know him. Oh God. Oh, HBO. Nope.
I like his clues for you.
I know. He's a man on the television who does the thing.
The stand-up comedian who's a guest host. So you got all the main guest hosts in America. Who are the big ones?
Bill Maher? Is that who you mean?
What's
Bill Maher?
Bill Maher.
M-A-H-E.
Can you Google the bloody thing? What Bill?
I don't know if he's left wing. I just know that he's a...
Yeah. Bill...
That narrows it down.
If I don't let this go... What did you say, Bill Myers?
Yeah, Bill Maher.
M-A-H... Yeah, M-A-Y-E-R.
M-A-H-E-R.
Is it Bill? Is that his first name?
Yeah.
Okay, we're him. When he does his show, I was thinking, I'm going to time the claps because it's American. So every other sentence, there's a round of applause, even when it doesn't warrant it.
It's because they've probably got a...
Talk, they stop, round of applause. Talk, they stop, round of applause. And I thought, God, this is a lot of the show. It's just applause. And when he does his intro bit, when he talks to the camera like a lot of them does, and sometimes they don't get the joke, but he stops to let them laugh. And I go, the arrogance.
Yeah.
Like, I've stopped. Oh, they didn't laugh. Oh, but he's leaving the gap in for them to laugh. Thinking, what sort of human being would want to be like that? Like, da-da-da-da.
But it's also to make it seem more polished.
There is something about a pause, though.
Yeah.
I'm not a comedian, but in speaking, the pause can be just as powerful
as the phrase. But I mean, that's a nuance. This is like rigid.
He's like expecting.
And I thought there's got to be at least 5 minutes of this show. It's just ridiculous clapping.
But that's also probably because you have to pause otherwise because people applause and then you have to stop talking.
No, but I'm not talking about the comedy bit. I'm talking about when you've got the journalists on, with the thing and Trump and the thing, and I think that's what we need to do. But it does it constantly after. But what it does, it sort of bookends. Even though you've got 3 people, it stops there and then it stops there, even though it's the same flow of conversation. And I just thought that's quite weird because the worst thing they do with these shows is when they start off, they'll get people that are fans of that person, and then the louder this people clap, they then give them tickets to come back, and then you get more.
Oh, I see.
And then you just end up with a load of sycophants, and it's fake because anything you do, it's like Steve Martin. I think when he had part of the breakdown, because it was part of that, the comedian, what was it, Dennis Pennis or whatever, went up to him and said, just as a random, he was like a joker that would go up to people like a little Saturday night skits and say things to celebrities to wind them up.
He would ask sort of questions designed to wind them up.
Yeah.
He was meant to be, the idea is he would blag his way onto the red carpet and then...
He looked ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was the one that squirted the gun in Tom Cruise's face.
Oh, was that him?
Yeah. He went, hey, Tom Cruise. And he sort of half laughed because training. And then he went, you're a real fucking prick. Yeah. And so it became a thing. Anyway, but he went up to Steve Martin. Now, he didn't know Steve Martin was having emotional problems because he'd been doing comedy for a long time. The films weren't going great. And he went, Steve. He said, when are you going to do a funny film? And in the book, Steve said that tipped him over the edge. And he said to somebody, because remember, he's not in America now. This is some Briton just come up. When you do something funny, where you're probably not used to, you got to think you're not him. Yeah. You don't know what that's like.
No.
And in the book, he says about like that really affected him. And he said, but the problem was, he said, I would go up on the stage and I would say things that I knew weren't funny, but people would laugh. Because I've now realised that I'm
him
giving you nothing and you're just laughing. So I'm not even worth anything. Like just say, I don't know. And they're laughing. They don't even know what they're laughing at.
Just lose the fulfillment. They're just puppets.
Yes, you go, well, you people. But you never want to get to a stage where you say, you people. But yeah, so, okay, what are we talking about now? I think I was just having to go at everyone. I basically had to go at everyone then. Dennis Pennis.
You don't discriminate if you have a go.
Yeah, I'm quite an equal opportunities discriminator. Oh no, that's not bad. So
You were going to introduce me to some other podcasts, and
yeah, but see, I had all that planned
before
there. I even met you. I thought I've got to talk to you about some things. I'd spoken to somebody at a meeting about you a while ago, but yeah. So forget that for now. What do you do? Because I don't like to people think as like when you talk about a thing, you go, well, that's that person, that's what they are. I go, no, just who are you? So what do you do for fun? Fun, silly fun.
It is a minority of my life, if I'm honest.
And a lot of people have a lot of things to do for fun, by the way. So when you put,
but you know how you said work is fun? Yeah. Like I genuinely find work fun, like hanging out with my team and like, building things.
Noel Coward said work should be more fun than fun.
Well, it should be, and it is. So I find that fun. My teenagers are hilarious. I love teenagers. People love babies. I'm like, no, thank you. But teenagers, I find, just spark me in a wonderful way.
What was the last book or film you saw?
I just saw the Elvis movie in the cinema.
Oh, we spoke about that.
Did you?
Did you? Yeah. I didn't see it.
Yeah, remember when we did the remote thing from home, the podcast?
I'm reading a book called 4,000 Weeks. Because essentially, we all have 4,000 weeks to live, approximately.
Is that what it works out? And what age does that take you up to?
I don't know, 80 or something. He does this, maybe 85. But it's quite stoic and it's quite uplifting. Even though I recommended it to a friend and they're like, "That's a bit dark." I'm like, well, it's true. Yeah. It's not dark, but it's like helps us think about work and life in ways that are about fulfillment rather than, people are unconsciously going through life, right? That's exactly what's happening. Netflix, Instagram, where's the time gone? Oh my God, it's my birthday. And you're like, meh. Yeah, 4,000 weeks.
When's your birthday? September?
September, yeah.
Are you celebrating it?
Probably.
That's another thing I'd do. I'd ban birthdays.
That's a terrible idea.
It's not. It's a great idea.
I've been trying to go with you this whole time. That's a terrible idea.
I don't want to get into it.
Why should we ban anything that's about celebration?
I don't like the word ban. That's my problem. If you say you shouldn't ban anything, that's what
you just said. Ban,
and you can't have it. So that's why I should never be in charge because my language suggests fascism, totalitarianism at least. But the problem was when I was working in clubs, I just noticed ages because I didn't celebrate birthdays, so I don't know what age I am now. I didn't celebrate birthdays.
Please.
I don't. See, that's the weirdest thing as well. When people say that, I think, oh, they really...
57.
No, it really does mean something to them. Like, that's sad.
It's not sad. It's about marking
when people are young,
points in your life.
No, but it's good on the day. That's it. And the day before.
I like my birthday.
But when people are young, they want to be old. When they're old, they want to get young.
That's a different endemic problem with society. I love how old
they are. But that is the problem. If you could measure misery and positivity and go through the year when people are getting older, how much pleasure do they get from that age, knowing what age they are compared to that? And half the problems in the world are, I'm this age and I haven't done this. I'm this age.
That's true.
Well, when did you start?
When
did you start?
It's expectations.
Yeah. Whereas if
mismatched.
You didn't have if it did not exist,
I think they'd find other marker points for why they weren't good enough or didn't achieve something by the time the moon went through a cycle
in North Korea,
of
they don't have ages. They have everyone celebrates a birthday on the same day, which again, I'm not saying.
Are they happier?
No, but you're right. Human beings will always fall into a pattern of something.
Yeah.
But I think
need rituals and traditions.
But I never had that. I'm that age, so I need to do that, or I'm that age and I'm getting a bit old, which you hear constantly when people go over 30. So. What's the benefit? Well, I have a day where they've got presents. You go, that's not enough to warrant all that. So what's your defense?
I think it's a time for gratitude and celebration.
You're talking about one day. That's the problem.
But it's not about the day. It's for me, that is you know how sometimes
you can't talk about you though. That's the thing, because that's specific.
Well, I need to celebrate other people.
No, you need to think about everyone else.
All of society.
Yeah, generally.
But I am the sample size. So.
No, you're not, because you're like me. You're unique life. And you can't, and most people.
Yeah, but just like you have like your circle of people and things that have influenced your decision that you now want to put on all of society.
I've decided my own stuff. I'm on my own, basically.
Everyone is influenced. Everyone is influenced. If I was going to go through your life and see the patterns of your life, you would be influenced by a countless amount of things.
Yeah, only negative stuff. I mean,
no, all sorts of things that have made you the unique you that you claim is only you. All
right. So anyway, so the age thing.
Yeah.
There's no good.
I think it's about perspective.
Yeah.
It's how do you choose to look at it? Is it like my marker point towards death? Or is it time to like, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but on my birthday, I reflect on the year before. I reflect on gratefully where I am and where I want to get to.
See, what you're saying is what people should do and what's beneficial. I'm saying
we can shift perspectives.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is at the moment, it's just, oh God, I'm getting to 40. What am I going to do? I haven't done this thing. She's 30. So, and when they're younger, they want to be older. I'm going to get into a club. When they get hit 25, people saying, oh, I wish I was that age. And you go,
going downhill.
Why don't you just get rid of the bloody thing? Like, just stop talking about it. Like when you said...
It's the first question people ask each other.
If I say I don't know what age I am, people tell me my age, like partners and whatnot.
57.
And the next day, I've forgotten.
Oh, how about the one where, like, if you're dating and stuff, they're like, guess my age. And you're in this quandary.
There's no good answer.
No, there isn't.
If you say it too young, well, you're lying. And if it's too old, well, then that's good night. But
it's like, so what? Like,
I have a problem.
Hilarious.
Listen, when I was sick once, this is no joke, and somebody was with me. I'll get them on the show to tell you. And the what do you call the paramedic?
Yeah,
said, "How old you are? How old are you?" And I had to say, right, I don't know. But it's not to do with, and I had to get the other person to say, can you tell them how? He said, he doesn't know. He hasn't got a clue. I didn't passport. I didn't celebrate. But
I wonder why they need to know.
I think it was a mental thing to see if you there. Like, what day is it? How old you are? And I said,
like,
I'm not. But I swear,
lock him up.
I don't know.
They were like, oh, that old chap.
If you gave me, you said you can put a £1 bet and you make a tenner and guess what age you are, I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't lose the quid. I haven't got a bloody clue. But it's when you say things like that, oh, come on. And I think that's how ingrained it is. Like, you probably think, you must know it. No, because I never celebrate birthdays, so the years pass. I remember the first time somebody asked me, and I remember I had to figure it out because it was like middle of nightclub life. So I'd been doing it 15 years. It's bang in the middle when I'm a lunatic and I'm getting in fist fights 5 days a week, gangs, stabbed, everything. And one day, it's just 24-hour period, survive a 24-hour period. And money I've got spent, get the rent number. And a girl went to me, oh, blah, blah, how old are you? And I went, shit, no one's ever asked me. I don't know. I'd been on holidays, so I didn't have a passport, driving license, and I remember having to sort of talk out of it. And then that night I thought,
how old am I?
I don't know how old I am. But if you just didn't celebrate birthdays,
cut off your hand and counted the rings.
But that's what I mean by I was that removed. You shouldn't really be that removed from society in modern times. But that's why I say my life was weird. And so now it's like it just didn't catch. It never caught. And people will say my age. And the next day I've forgotten because it's like saying your passport number. And we should remember it. It doesn't mean anything to me. I think
the Jehovah's Witnesses don't celebrate birthdays.
Yeah.
Okay. They're miserable like you.
Yeah.
I remember having that as a really awkward moment at work. I was like this was just in retail years, as a Saturday boy. I was like the floor or the department manager for that particular, tiny little shop. I was like, oh, it's so-and-so's birthday. You want to sign it? And this woman said no. And I thought, oh, just think, oh, is that you, in my head, I was like, oh, have they had a falling out? Should I be aware of that? Because obviously, you got to work with each other close. And someone had to be like, Jehovah's Witness. So I was like, that doesn't answer my question. No, because I didn't know that was a thing.
I will say happy birthday and buy somebody a present. It's because you don't impart your crap on other people. If you think it's a better way, if that person's happy on that day, I'd happily celebrate your own. Yeah. If you'd go, well, I'm not going to sign it because piss off.
Yeah,
just
it should be about that people. Person's celebration.
Yeah, a friend of mine said, I don't believe in the what's the romantic day?
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I don't do it. You go, but she does.
So I realised I should have said every day.
Yeah. But I said, but what stand are you taking?
That's an argument I've had in my relationship.
If it means something to that person, then do whatever.
I had to be schooled. He would tell you a story. I'm the one who's saying, it's just a day.
Oh, really?
And he's the one like, you couldn't even get me a card.
Oh, really? The fella?
Yeah. So I ended up buying him a card while he was with me on the day because I was like, I'm sorry, I'll sign it right.
You're like, do you have a pen I can borrow?
Yeah, it was. I did do that.
That's awful. You shouldn't used to think about the other person.
But I didn't realize it was our first year together. I didn't realize it was important.
Year. That's quite ballsy to not care in the first year.
But I was like, you can give me flowers. I don't mind. But I'm like, I didn't realize that it would break someone's heart. Now I want to hear your heartbreak story. But
I send people things all the time. So I'm not doing that thing of, I do it through the year. But I do genuinely.
But I do think it's a commercial holiday that's just trying to rip you off.
But if it means something to that person, then you shut up.
Well, that's how I've had to learn and be in the middle.
But the age thing, I think you would always, if I could remove it from your soul and you didn't know, you would be a happier person. The age just went away. And you just thought you weren't looking at other people and what age they do stuff.
Just a person in the universe
just doing
floating around.
It doesn't matter what age I am. Kids.
Society does mess it up. I agree.
But I think it's also mentally. I think it's just about the trick is not to get old, as in mentally. Obviously, you can be mature and stuff. But if you lose the kind of joy of life.
Part of it becomes around body clocks and stuff as well. Like when I was dating after I got divorced, the amount of men that would ask me if I was ready to have babies and like they were ready to date one.
Yeah. It's really nice to meet. It's really nice to meet you. May I impregnate you? Because we've got, clocks ticking here.
And I was like, my shortest date was 22 minutes. I was like, goodbye.
What was the last question? Kids.
Well, it was kids, and then I was like, well, we're obviously not aligned, right? So we don't want the same things. And then I was like, so we should probably end this here.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. You never waste it.
Well, he wasn't attractive, was he? If he was, I might have.
No, but I would genuinely
might have lied. A couple of months.
Look, we're here.
No, I wouldn't have lied, but I've been like, while you're waiting to impregnate someone.
But if you're there, just have a conversation about work or career or something. Like, you never know. Don't waste an opportunity.
I date efficiently, and I would give people 1 hour max, and just.
I hate people that sound like me. It makes me sound like in my head, I think.
I'd just be like, I haven't got time for
But
this.
when you verbalise it, you go, oh, that sounds quite hard.
So basically what happens is when you hear someone else say the same things that you say, you're now outside the situation going,
because the sentence
this is what I sound
nice.
like.
It doesn't sound right.
I don't think it sounds
Well, it's all about delivery.
Yeah.
You're presenting it right.
Yeah.
Okay. No, because you
just
always
be like, you're a really nice person. I hope you find someone you may impregnate. I've got things to do.
I try to not give too many opinions, and when I'm saying something about it, I just tell them what I
can't picture that.
No, I think what did I tell them what I felt at the time. I'm not going to give you an opinion. This is how my body reacted to hearing something. That's just all I'm saying.
Sure.
And when I listened to you talk about something, I can't remember. You was talking about the bad sides that you were struggling with, the relationships and things, and the extremes and all that. And as I was listening, I was thinking, oh no, don't lose that. Oh no, don't lose that, because then you're like them. Like there's positivities to not doing much with the first half of your life and being free. And I was thinking, if you could just shave the edges of what you're saying, don't lose that. Don't lose that kiddie thing. Don't lose the.
I agree.
Don't be like them, because there's too many of them already. Be more free and allow that in. Don't go to the extreme of, well, I've got to cut this and I've got to cut that.
The thing I have to fight against now is the entrepreneurship thing of society, which is like, grow bigger, grow faster, do it this way, get investment, go that way. And it's like, well, I have to go step back, slow down. Like, is that what I want? Like, where do I want the business to grow? And
it's what you're doing it for money.
Because
most people are doing it for money. That's why I tell people that you're miserable because you're just chasing money.
We're doing it for impact, and it's fun.
Whatever you get, you'll always kick the ball further down the road. And
that's the thing.
And you're never actually happy. You never get there. You just come back to where you were.
And you just get bigger overheads and bigger stresses, and then
bigger house, bigger mortgages, just becomes stupid.
Yeah, agreed.
So let me think. Have you got any other major questions while I've got you here?
Any major questions?
Handcuffed
Have you ever gone into a workplace and been like, because obviously, with your sort of, I suppose, could we say consulting is probably the broadest.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone into anywhere and just been like, this is beyond help? Just get the flamethrower and call it a day.
I mean, that's dark, but certainly like...
not literally a flamethrower.
Well, I can just like mirror back to them what they want. And if they just want a tick box, I'm like, it seems like you just want to throw like a helpline at the situation or something. But our job is to go beneath the surface and go, who calls your helpline? Who uses your apps? What are the numbers? It's usually below 10%. So if that's all you're doing, you are actually going to spend money on crisis that could be prevented if you're over here. If they don't listen to that and hear that and are just like toxic on the inside and are like outsourcing well-being so they can say they've done it, goodbye.
Yeah.
We're not the people for you.
I remember once it was a bank in America and it kind of made headlines. One of these global, mega corp, evilcorp.com or whatever the company was. And it was, that these junior sort of bankers, it's not quite that, but junior bankers are sort of all got together and done this presentation about the fact that, like, look, you're killing us all, because we're doing 90-hour weeks. Targets are unreasonable, all of this stuff. And they basically they just did this, part slackers. But they basically, they did this whole big presentation about how, the stresses were actually, and that, long term.
People probably are dying, like suicide.
Well, there was
exhaustion.
There was the case of a guy who was doing ludicrous hours every week, and he was found dead in a shower because the idea was you would do your shift, go home for 2 minutes, have a shower, pop some dodgy pill or whatever, and then go back to work and carry on your shift. And so they did this presentation. It kind of went viral, as it were, and the CEO just said, we appreciate you taking the effort to do this thing, but sometimes we just have to ask just our people to go just that little extra mile. So basically, you just went, fuck you, I don't care.
Yeah.
Versus some other companies run by women, inevitably, where they were like, we're just going to give people like a month off because this happened in COVID. You know, they gave everyone like a huge amount of time off because they just said, look, either everyone's slacking off at home, you know, because it's work from home. It's not true. Yeah, they just went, no, people have gone through so much trauma because of everything. People have lost people. People have been isolated, and we are social animals. And they just went, no, you can have some time off and it's paid.
Yeah.
And you go versus some scumbag going like, well, no, maybe when all of you are dead and there's no one to whip,
write your prescription.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was a cartoon that went around and it said about solution to a problem, and it was somebody whipping a horse. It said the common sense solution to a cart. I think it was to get through up a hill or something. Common sense solution. Obviously, you know, I know people don't like necessarily the idea of whipping horses, but it was like get more horses to whip like that. And it's a corporate solution, and it was loads of people on the cart with whips whipping people, like whipping one person to pull the cart up there. And that's you know, that's what it's like.
That's a striking image.
Sure. It's got to change everything. It just needs to collapse and start again.
Well, you just need to, if you can cure greed, there you go.
But well, I should say there are a lot of businesses that are doing it right.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of, and who want to learn, who want the help, who want to get it down from the tick box into the culture and environment. So that's hopeful. And I would say much, Europe, the US, like different places that pre-pandemic were like, please, are now opening up to the conversation. So that's hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I freelance for Discovery, or Warner Brothers as a Discovery now it is, and the things they do for their staff are actually really impressive.
Yeah.
So they give them, everyone gets a day, I think it's a day, it might even be a couple of days, to do volunteering projects, and it's just you can go work at a donkey sanctuary or anything like that, and it's paid.
My model.
Yeah, you're nothing but donkey sanctuaries. That's all he talks about all day long. But no, it's just the idea of like, no, we need a couple of days. It's because there is something you just feel good giving back. I think most people do. Obviously, not the guy who's like you need to work more. Yeah. But you know they do all sorts of things like that. You know, whole mental health week isn't just like, hey, hashtag mental health week, and then
yoga
next
class.
Yeah, exactly. And then next week is like, oh, what week is it this week on the calendar? And you know, what flag have we got to put up, change our social media to for this week? It's all continuous. And even simple things like, hey, we know it's been a really stressful time, so we're just gonna do free lunches. And it's not the fact that obviously you're saving people money and it's nice to have food, it's just a gesture of like, we give a shit about you.
Yeah.
And that's all you have to do. That's such a massive thing.
So last words, Petra.
Oh, when's your book? What's your book called, and when is it coming out?
Are you still doing it?
Big.
Yeah, so there is a book.
It.
Yeah, so I'm writing a book,
Okay,
and it's coming out in May 2023.
What can you say about it? Is there a heading? Can you say?
I can say it's the working title is Begin With You, which is about getting each individual taking responsibility for their own mental health, which will then impact the culture.
Begin with you. What could you do with the letter U to make it?
Well, you could spell Y-O-U for starters.
No, nobody will know what you're talking about. You just got to put U.
Oh, yeah, but then it would have to be like B-G-I-N, WIT, W-I-T-U.
Begin.
I'll get you guys around when we're
exactly. Brainstorm the title.
To the end,
Could you turn that into an equation?
What are you trying to do? I don't understand.
I was trying to make it a bit more the copy a bit better.
I think it could be better. I think it's like the
you can't just put begin with you. That's
no. There's like a long like explanatory sentence, but it's like the publishers. It's their draft copy, and I think we need to get a bit closer to the edge.
I've seen people with images, and I'm not going to say who the books. And I said, "Why did you get that done?" And I thought I probably shouldn't have said that on the podcast. I said, I explained on the podcast what it should have been. I thought probably wasn't the right thing to say.
But also, I think most would you describe it as a self-help book or kind of like a guidance book or business book? Yeah. But most sort of, I suppose, all right, non-fiction books have like a title and then a subtitle. You know,
it's the subheading. You should have something about your from senior cult leader to blah blah blah.
Well, what's really interesting is when I talk in, especially newer type companies that are fast growth, and I read this book once about how cults are like corporates, and at the beginning you get the idealistic leader and everyone wants to follow and it's wonderful, and then you get the layer of middle management, and that's when the communication starts to filter through power lenses and it all pretty much gets fucked, and people will be like, who have you been talking to?
It's
a unique perspective that I think is usually on point, because I'm just like, oh, toxic, greed, power, this is where it's all showing up.
A friend of mine
worked
at a company, and his boss would jokingly say, "Don't join the cult. Don't join the cult." Like it would always be the aside thing. And they would even say that to the CEO, jokingly being like, don't join the cult, don't start a cult. It's a cult.
Yeah, but I've been accused of starting a cult. Just because you get people to do something with passion doesn't mean it's a cult.
No, but this is 100% a cult.
Oh, it was literally.
There's a difference between activism, movement for change. Like,
I mean, it's the same sort of model. It's just the negativity. It doesn't have the negativity with it.
Right.
Could be a positive cult, people coming together. Well, it's like in Black Lives Matter. It's a group of people with probably a few people at the heading.
Yeah, I'm not against like groups coming together. Like that's totally fine. But then it's when it's the ego, right? If it starts getting to the leader's head.
Well, it's can I have your credit card details? That's where it ends. Okay, I'm out.
I mean, it's not far off.
Yeah.
Give me your children.
Positive. So positive. So what's your say something? Tell the people what's life. Say something. What's the do this, be this. Say something.
What would be like? I guess what would be a starter for mental health, for improving your mental health? Maybe that would be a
So think about good mental health, not just what do I do if I have bad mental health. I was thinking of the mantra that got me through probably the first 10 years of like recovery. And it used to be the best revenge is living a good life. And that allowed me to like let go of all the,
Yeah, I never liked that because I don't like the idea of revenge. Like, I've got to get them back. That still
No, but that I don't like, I've let that one go now. But at the time, either I get like I fucking obsess about revenge or I put all of that energy into, I mean, you have no idea the carnage of like my generation who ended up being like prostitutes and drug addicts, and the suicide rate in my generation is ridiculous. So that kind of got me through first. But think about prevention and maintenance rather than crisis. So many people, the first time they go to therapy or to any kind of help is when they're like completely crashing out and in crisis. But also think about somatic work. Like you talked about movement. Like talking is not actually the cure to things like burnout or trauma. Actually, we need to move our bodies in different ways. So that's where we need to assess our lifestyle and environment. And nothing, I think you'll agree, can replace a sense of belonging and connection with real humans. So no matter how you do that, find that. And I think people have lost the skill, so there's higher anxiety and they're like, I don't want to be in social situations. I'm just going to drink to get through it, right? And it's practice. Changing your environment and your lifestyle takes practice. And anxiety is just your fear going, I'm not used to this anymore. So like it is a feel the fear and do it anyway thing is genuinely what it is to end on a cheesy cliche.
So the general thing is that don't wait for things to go wrong before you fix them. Get out there and do things to make your wellness. I don't like that word, but
yeah, but invest in yourself and invest in yourself when you're feeling not well, right?
And not with cryptocurrency. When I was talking about
we should end every show with just being like, don't buy cryptocurrency. NFTs are fake. Just like that. And we're like Cato the Elder, who used to say he used to end every speech with Carthage must be destroyed, which was Rome's great. So he'd be talking about anything. He'd be giving a speech going, we really need to do something about the sewage in the Greek quarter of the city. ... And Carthage must be destroyed, and then he would sit down.
Okay.
So that's what we should do.
A true cult leader.
Well, exactly. So that's it. Petra, the Rock, the real Rock, not Dwayne Johnson.
God, don't get him started on
literally in the name.
Don't get him started on. No. Anyway. We'll be here for another hour.
When I was on holiday, there was one TV station that I could understand, and bloody what's his name? Not the other me. Who's the other one?
Joe Rogan?
No, who's the one below me?
I don't know who
Triple X. That was the film.
Oh, Vin Diesel.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking, he's crap. He doesn't look good on camera. He's not in shape. He's not nothing. Why is he the thing? And he was a bouncer as well, which annoyed me. I thought, he's not a good representation.
Did you want to be in the Fast and Furious? Is that it?
No, I wouldn't. I'd turn that down. It's just an embarrassment to yourself. Unless you're broke, I forgive anyone that's poor doing anything. When you've got money and you pump out shit, I go, why have you chosen to carry on doing that?
He was broke. That's how he got famous. He was broke. And
what was his first film?
Was he like? I don't know if it was his first film, but he had a very small role in Saving Private Ryan. But it's because he made completely broke.
Yeah.
He made, I think he ended up being a mini series of short films about being, I think it was about being mixed race and how odd that was to be in casting in films, because it's like, mixed race as in, because that's relative, I'm mixed race, but I'm not the traditional what people think of.
Yeah.
So it's that, he'd be called into 1 week it's a Hispanic guy, and then the next meeting it's an Arabic
he's got
guy.
An ambiguous look to you, don't
I believe he's got white and black heritage, but the honest answer is I don't know.
I feel a bit better about him now. Not
yeah, but that's how and so he did that film, and Spielberg was impressed because it's basically shot for nothing, but he put in the effort.
But why pump out that crap then? It's just money. You're throwing money on top of money with fasting, whatever it's called.
You know, I really liked how we were ending this.
Yeah.
It was like, Petra, The Rock.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it was like, The Rock. And I was
because he got distracted by The Rock.
Because we know when somebody looks a tiny bit like you, and then they do the wrong thing. You go, I feel like you shouldn't.
You have a very strict right or wrong sense, though. It's like,
everyone tells me that. But there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, according to you,
that's a very
open to the grey area.
But it's just your absolute. I like that it's like you see the world in black and white. Yes, that's the right way to see it.
It's the only way.
Yeah,
take your name down.
Yeah, exactly. So Petra the Rock.
Petra
there we
the
go.
Rock. There you go. Thank you very much for coming in. I'm sure we'll see more of you in 2022. Maybe even more podcasting.
Thank you very much,
David. Hit it, brother.
Don't buy crypto.
Here's your story, let's begin. The water's fine, come on, dive in. The future's here, it's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. You're welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than life.